Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are tackling a story that operates at an absolute fever pitch, literally from the very first frame. Today, we're unpacking the massive 90-episode anime epic, Alex's Redemption: The Ice Age Survival. And let me tell you, this isn't just your standard survival story about braving the cold. No, it is a raw, intense journey of visceral betrayal, supernatural rebirth, and really the ultimate test of human endurance. It asks a pretty wild question. What happens when a person who has lost absolutely everything, and I mean including their own humanity, is suddenly handed a blank slate right on the edge of the end of the world?
To really understand Alex's journey, we've got to start at the inciting incident, a world shattered. The story kicks off with this incredibly visceral, gut-wrenching betrayal. Picture this. Alex walks in and actually catches his girlfriend cheating. In a fraction of a second, his entire reality just completely collapses. He's overcome by this blinding, uncontrollable rage. He doesn't just walk away or yell. In a fit of absolute fury, he kills both his girlfriend and her lover. It's a point of no return, a double murder fueled by pure rage. And right after this horrific, traumatic act, everything just goes dark. The slate is wiped clean in the most jarring way possible.
Section 1. Rebirth. 5 days left.
Okay, let's dive into this, because out of that absolute darkness, the story takes a massive supernatural turn. Alex wakes up. He isn't in a prison cell, and he isn't in the afterlife. Through some miraculous, totally unexplained phenomenon, he has been sent back in time. He is fully aware of the tragedy that just unfolded, but now he's faced with one terrifying number: 5. That is the ultimate ticking clock motif driving the entire suspense of this 90-episode epic. 5 days. That's literally all that stands between a relatively normal world and a catastrophic, apocalyptic ice age that's going to freeze the entire planet. Just imagine waking up with the heavy, traumatic knowledge of a double murder you committed in another timeline, right? Mixed with the terrifying realization that you have exactly 120 hours to prepare for the end of the world. Every single second counts. There is absolutely no time to panic. There's only time for action.
This timeline really maps out that frantic, incredibly brief window he has to work with. Day 1 is just pure shock, the rebirth and the crushing realization of what's about to happen. But Alex, he doesn't wallow. Days 2 through 4 represent this period of relentless, almost manic preparation. He is racing against an inescapable, creeping cold that's actually already starting to signal its arrival. And then, Day 5, the Ice Age descends. Visually anchoring this timeline kind of helps us understand the immense pressure Alex is under. The tension is just palpable as the gap between his initial shock and the apocalyptic frost closes so rapidly.
Section 2. The Daily Reward System.
Now, Alex isn't facing this timeline completely empty-handed. Alongside his rebirth comes a mysterious, almost LRTPG-style element. Suddenly, his life is operating on video game logic. Which, let's be honest, is exactly what you'd want if the actual apocalypse was knocking on your door. As the definition outlines, this reward system is a daily lifeline, granting resources, skills, and upgrades. But it isn't just handing him a magic wand to wave the Ice Age away. What makes this so fascinating is how it blends his past mistakes with his new strengths. He's deeply haunted by the betrayal and his own murderous rage from his past life, but he takes that deep psychological trauma and channels it directly into a calculated determination to survive. The system actually responds to this, intertwining his profound regret and his desperate hope into a very tangible mechanism for his new survival.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how specific the system is. It feeds him 3 exact things every single day. First up, money, which honestly might seem absolutely useless in an apocalypse, right? But it's vital in those crucial days before the world ends to secure massive amounts of raw materials. Second, survival skills, and third, safe house upgrades. The system is essentially giving him the building blocks for an impenetrable fortress. Every day he survives and stays focused, he's rewarded with the exact tools necessary to push back against the impending freeze.
Section 3. Building the fortress.
So with those tools in hand, Alex enters the most strategic phase of his journey. He takes all that trauma from the betrayal, all that lingering darkness from his past actions, and he weaponizes it. He rapidly masters 3 essential survival skills. Step 1, hunting. He needs sustenance and raw materials. Step 2, crafting, turning those raw materials into usable tools and gear. And Step 3, building, actively fortifying his physical space. The narrative here is incredibly punchy and action-oriented. Because Alex is in constant motion, there's just no time for hesitation. He's relentlessly applying the skills granted by the system, turning theoretical knowledge into practical, life-saving action.
By focusing his daily system upgrades in specific areas, he forces these incredible physical transformations upon his basic shelter.
An upgrade focused on provisions results in a shelter absolutely stocked with food. An upgrade in defense results in an arsenal of weapons. And an upgrade to the environment, that means his space is filled with life-saving warmth. So, the crucial takeaway here is that Alex isn't just barely scraping by. He's strategically designing an environment that can completely isolate him from the horrors outside. He's transforming a simple structure into a heavily armed, incredibly warm fortress against the creeping cold.
Section 4. Mastering the Frozen Apocalypse.
Finally, the ticking clock runs out. The 5 days expire, and the apocalyptic frost that he was warned about descends upon the world, freezing quite literally everything in its path. The society he knew completely collapses under the ice. But inside his refuge, we see a massive psychological shift, and this brilliantly illustrates the transformation. On the left, we started with a man completely consumed by betrayal, a guy who let murderous rage dictate his actions and destroy his life. But on the right, as the Ice Age takes full hold, we see who he's actually become, a calculated survivor mastering his destiny. The contrast is just staggering. He didn't just build a physical fortress, he built a mental one. He evolved from a traumatized, reactive victim of his own emotions into a relentless master of his own fate.
In this frozen apocalypse, Alex found redemption, not just in survival, but in mastering his destiny. This quote perfectly summarizes the core theme of the entire 90-episode epic. His true redemption wasn't merely surviving the descending ice age. I mean, anyone could potentially get lucky and survive a few extra days, right? No, his redemption was taking absolute, unyielding control of his narrative. He used that mysterious reward lifeline to build a fortified refuge for sure, but more importantly, he used it to conquer his own demons and rewrite his story completely on his own terms.
Which leaves us with an incredibly intense scenario to think about as we wrap up today's explainer. If you had exactly 5 days to rewrite your fate before an unstoppable frost descended, how would you prepare? Would you panic, or would you channel your regrets into building your own fortress? It's a fascinating thought experiment about survival, resilience, and what it truly means to master your own destiny. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this epic journey, and I'll see you next time as we break down another incredible story.